Hello and welcome to episode 384 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now joining me on today's episode is Mike Cunniff. You'll know him from one of the best British bands out there right now, Boston Manor. This band absolutely blew me away at 2000 Trees this year, one of the festival highlights, and I've been obsessed with them ever since. I've been really lucky to be listening to their brand new album called Sundiver for the last couple of weeks, and it's blowing my mind. This band have no idea just how good they are. One of the most humble people I've had on Mark and Me, and I can't wait to share the interview with you all in just a couple of minutes' time. Just before I get to this interview, I always like to use the intro of each and every episode of Mark and Me to quickly touch base and talk about my last episode. On episode 383, I was joined by the international film critic Alan Jones. The response was absolutely amazing as always, so thank you to everyone that tuned in. Thanks to Alan for sharing it on all his socials, and I couldn't be happier with the numbers and the incredible response that came from this interview. But today it's all about a band that I've just been absolutely falling deeper and deeper in love with. I really hope that if you don't know about this band and you're listening to today's interview, at the end you'll go and check out Boston Manor, because you will not be disappointed. They really are, for me, one of the most underrated bands out there right now, and I really hope they kind of get the limelight that they deserve, because they're so hardworking, they're so determined, and Mike is so down to earth. This interview for me is one of my favourites I've done. We hit it off straight away, and I think the best thing to do now is to get straight to it. So here's me and Mike talking all things Boston Manor. So Mike, thanks for joining me today on the Mark and Me podcast.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Pleasure.
What I love to do with all guests that come on the show, it doesn't matter what walk of life you've been on, but I love to take it right back to the very start, and I'm always intrigued. What was the first album that you bought or was given to you or passed down to you that made you fall in love with music? Maybe you saved up your pocket money or a friend or relative gave it you, but can you remember that first one that you were like, fucking hell, this is incredible?
I actually do, because me and my friend and our sound engineer, Francis, talk about this a lot, but I think it was his as well. But it was actually Conspiracy of One by The Offspring.
Yeah.
Because I think it was year 2000. I already really loved, like, The Offspring kind of changed my life a bit, because up until then I'd been listening to pop music that I really like as well. I still listen to a lot of like the late 90s pop music, stuff like the Cardigans and stuff. But when I saw The Offspring perform Pretty Fly for a White Guy on Top of the Pops,
Yeah.
I'd never heard music like that. And I was just like, wait, can I swear on this thing? Or
I've literally just said fuck already, so it's
oh,
absolutely
hell
fine.
yeah. Yeah, I just remember I didn't say it at the time, but in my head, like if I knew the word, I would have been like, what the fuck is this? And it was just so loud and abrasive and shouty, and it was literally my first like introduction into rock music. And then kind of like moved. So I moved around a lot my whole life. My dad was in the RAF,
Yeah.
so we kind of moved to Paris, and then on TV, I think it was not too long after that, the new single came out, and I was kind of just like becoming like I was just a teenager, just like super awkward and weird, but I knew that that was what I wanted to be into. I knew it was all about the rock music, and then they brought out the next single from the next album, Conspiracy of One, and I remember buying it. I was allowed it because there was no parental advisory sticker on it,
Oh, those
even though
stickers back in the day, yeah.
they were so enticing, but my parents were they were very funny about that, and they did check the track listing on the back and everything. And I was really lucky there was nothing, because I'm sorry, but there's still a ton of adult content in those albums anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the first one that I got, had the big burning skull on the front of it, and I still remember like listening to it just literally on repeat on my Discman. And it had like the most like what I thought was like the coolest hand drawn artwork inside it as well. I was so obsessed with it. I was like, I'd flick through the book constantly when I was listening to it, and I loved how the artwork matched the vibe of the music as well. Um, and yeah, so they were kind of like, and you know what as well, I don't listen to them too much these days, but I saw them because we just playing the same festivals as them recently, and they're absolutely impeccable live as well. They're
Yeah.
still such a good band,
You
you know.
forget how many good songs they've got as well. I mean, I'm showing my age now, and I sound like a granddad compared to your story, but Smash was the album that did it for me.
Hell yeah.
I remember because I'm 42, so I was growing up, and MTV2 would play Self Esteem, and I'd be like, "This is
Yes.
unbelievable! Like, how great is this song?" And then Come Out and Play came out, and I was like, "This band changed my life." It was that Bush, Green Day. There was this
Oh
influx of
yeah.
bands like Smashing Pumpkins, Deftones, and those
Yes.
bands literally were like the reason I wanted to pick up a guitar. They're the reason I wanted to be in a band. They're the reason I wanted to do only music for the rest of my life.
Hell yeah. There's the same here. I mean, I'm not actually that far behind you. I'm turning 38 this year, so I feel like our we may have quite a lot of
God, you look
overlap
so much
there.
better for your age than me. I'm sitting here
I
with
just
white hair in my beard and an
well, I
old
just had a
man.
shave yesterday. I had a
Yeah.
shave, so I
Okay.
was just
That's the
like,
secret.
yeah, and just lots of no sleep and coffee.
That's the
So
secret.
yeah, I'm sure it'll be like one of those days where I just wake up and my face will just fall off or something. But yeah, no,
Embrace it
all
while
of
you can,
those.
dude. Embrace it while you can.
Oh, well, thank you. That's so kind of you to say. But yeah, the MTV2 era of music was amazing. I think Kerrang was a fairly fresh channel on TV, and then followed by Scuzz. And yeah, I found all of those bands through there. Like, and I went to an international school in Paris, so a lot of my friends were American and Canadian, and I just had like the fast track into like really cool music. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have got that if I stayed in the UK. But yeah, like my first show was Corn. Deftones
Dude, you're
has
getting
been my
ahead. Like my next
favorite.
question is your first gig. My first was Green Day on their Dookie tour in Wolverhampton, and
You you
you
know
know,
what, man? You are the exact age that I wish I was because I wish I was a little tiny bit older just to
yeah.
experience the 90s like you did.
Well,
That's
one of my
amazing.
first was I saw Corn and Limp Bizkit were the first band on that night before Corn,
What
and
album cycle were they on?
they had just released as a single Counterfeit, so they had no idea what was to come, and they were just
Unreal.
raw. And Fred Durst came on stage with a pair of tights on his head, wrapped up, and no one knew the fucking band really. They hadn't released, anything like hot dog flavored water at that point, anything like break stuff even, and they
Dude, I
were
was listening to that album
just
today actually.
just chaos. And I got to see Slipknot there on their first tour, and all these bands, and yeah, there's like a difference of like 5 years, I think, that you would have been there too.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And
for you,
then
you just said Corn was your first gig. Like, that's fucking epic.
yeah, man, it was Korn supported by Puddle of Mud that to be honest never really gave a fuck about that band.
No, awful.
They didn't even play the hits when they were there as well. I think they kind of got eventually the Korn fans got really annoyed and I think booed them off stage. But
I think I
the
read something the other day that Puddle of Mud has no single original band member anymore. He's replaced everyone so many times. There's not one. It's just him basically now, and with like
yeah.
five of his fucking weird mates. But yeah.
Did you see the Nirvana cover they whacked out in
I
the
still can't get it out of my eyes or my. I've tried bleach, I've tried everything, but
Bleach? Nice.
it's nice. See what I did there?
Yeah, I love
And
that.
it was it's the most disgusting, horrendous thing I've ever seen.
I
That
woke
should
up
be
to
banned.
that.
That
Like
should be banned off the internet. Forget all these horrible sites that people talk about. That should not be seen by anyone.
oh man, it truly is a work of art, isn't it? Just like how to do absolutely everything wrong. But the opening, going back to what we were saying before, the opening band who left a massive lasting impression on me on that tour was a band called Trust Company that not many people know. And they were kind of like sat in that kind of space of like it was definitely on the new metal side. I think they were signed to Jonathan Davis's label Immortal.
Yeah,
But they definitely had like a whispery vocal like Chino about them. But almost like almost like emo before the new wave of emo was a thing, like lyrics and vocals. And the album, I remember it, and I just loved the fact that they just looked like regular, just young guys as well. And to me, I was just like, they brought such an energetic performance. They were kind of jumping around. The songs were flawless live, and they were so catchy that when I immediately went and bought the album, I remembered the songs just from hearing them once. Um, and I still love that band to this day. Just that first album, I think is really good front to back. There's some hits on there. It's a shame that they never really quite made it, but
It's
that was the
good. It's good
first.
nostalgia, isn't it? When it embeds in you that you, it take probably when you listen to it now, you don't even realize subconsciously it's taking you back to that age in that gig at that venue. No
Yeah,
stresses, no mortgage, no worry about fucking paying the bills. Like just pure innocence and enjoying music.
yeah, it's the best, man. It's the best. And I talk about that a lot actually about the about how music leaves that lasting impression on you when you've listened to it at that age, and it kind of almost really informs like your music taste. Like I feel like it's a really good kind of bedrock for what you are going to be into in the future. Even though I feel like I listen to pretty much everything now, but I feel like fundamentally I know what I like just
Yep.
based off the era that I grew up in, you know?
Mate, it's a massive talking point on this podcast, and the amount of bands I kind of dive deep about this because it's such a big thing. It's staples that future, and like without that, you wouldn't have listened to Deftones. Without those bands, they wouldn't have shaped the
Yeah.
bands that you are now. That the songs that you do through Boston Manor are that because it's all had an impact. It's all embedded in you, even if you like it or not, or even are aware. Like those bands have had a moment to do something to you and have an effect on you that you don't really ever really shake off.
For sure, man. And I have to admit as well, it wasn't just the band, it wasn't just the bands either. It was a lot of the MTV stuff. I thought, and still to this day, like the pop music back then, I think is incredible.
Yeah,
Like the pop music almost goes as hard, the way it was produced and the way it was mixed, almost goes as hard as their rock contemporaries, you know? Like when you hear like Destiny's Child and like even like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, it's kind of like very in your face kind of pop music. And almost like a little bit rocky in parts. And I have such a soft spot for the R&B and the hip hop and the pop music from that era too.
I have
Um,
no. I don't try and kid anybody. I was watching the new Deadpool film the other day, and NSYNC had "Bye Bye Bye" on there, and I was like, "Fucking hell, that's a banger!" Like even though I listened to stuff like Korn and Deftones and Pearl Jam and all this, I was like, that is a huge anthem. Like, that is a chorus that any band would love to write. Like, it's huge.
yeah,
And the production, like you said, even stuff like Backstreet Boys, I wouldn't buy their albums now or go and see them. But I remember listening to them thinking, that is just huge. Like,
yeah.
it's amazing. Those
It was
choruses are unreal.
it was definitely something where like teenage Mike back in the day wouldn't have been caught dead saying anything
No,
like that. But it's nice when you grow up and you have a little bit of perspective and you think actually it's all right to like this. And um yeah, there is a little bit of nostalgia there as well. And those bands got so horribly mocked. Well, the boy bands and stuff got so horribly mocked by the moshers and stuff like that, you know.
yeah.
But there was I definitely think there was something to it. I think the songs are just so well written. And I guess they probably had to be because of the amount of money that was being injected into those artists back then. Um, but yeah,
But they
it was a
made it
time,
back because
man.
people used to buy records and people would queue up and buy the CDs. And nowadays, people don't have the attention span for an album, even. So
No, and it's a
it's
shame as
tough.
well because me and the rest of the guys in the band are still very much like album people,
Yeah.
and that's how we still approach writing music as well. So I hope it comes back. I hope people start to live a little bit slower and be a little bit more present and actually start cherishing albums again, you know?
I have this conversation quite a lot with bands, and I remember bands like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but Smashing Pumpkins. The moment I got Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, it was a concept. It's a story throughout two albums,
Hmm.
and then Bush 16 Stone. It
Oh,
plays
yeah.
in an order that should be. it doesn't just go heavy, then the dynamics drop completely to a real chill song. It flows so well as an album. Bands like Radiohead are experts at it, and I
Oh,
think I
yes.
think you have to still embrace an album. And I know bands are very big on we need to get the numbers quick, we need to release a single, we need all the followers because all that people care about is numbers and how many TikTok views you've got. But there's a
Hmm.
lost art in a really fucking good album now, and I still listen to so many great bands like Thrice, and I love the fact that they put their heart and soul into it and don't kind of pander to the oh we'll just release singles. They put out an album that's meant to be an album, and you
Yeah,
guys do the same, man. Like you guys have been going just over 10 years now, which blows my
that's right.
mind. But the fact that you're not just going to hit loads of singles, TikTok videos, try and get that 5 minute fame. You're more about the slow long burn.
Do you know what, man? It's been one of those things that I'm glad that we stuck to our guns on that because
Yeah,
we've been always advised differently, and at the end of the day, we're lucky that we're on like independent labels that they want us to obviously do well, and we want to do well as well, but we kind of want to do it under our terms and conditions, and I think that might be what kind of held us back a little bit. You know, we didn't really play the game, and we still don't really with certain aspects in the industry because at the end of the day, we don't want to be we want to be able to make a living off writing and recording and playing music as musicians, and we're not interested in like fame or celebrity or anything like that. In fact, all those words sound really gross and horrible to us, and we can't even imagine it. And I don't think we're the kind of people that can be famous. I don't think we're like wacky enough or crazy enough with like the colored hair and stuff, you know. We're a little bit on the boring side, you know. We just like to rock out and have a bit of fun doing it and travel around and basically getting, I think, everything that we want. It'd just be nice to be fairly compensated for the amount of work that we put in, money wise, you know, because there's, like you said before, everyone's streaming stuff, and we're not. I feel like we're still not making as much money as we probably could be. I know that sounds extremely brutally honest to say in a podcast and on air, but that's the kind of the truth behind it. And I'm sure a lot of other artists in our position can really relate to that too. So we all have side hustles and second jobs and stuff, and
but
we're not
isn't that
ashamed, not
isn't
ashamed to
that
admit it.
isn't that authentic? Isn't that fucking real? Like I could have a podcast now that has 6 adverts on. Before you even find out who the guest is, it could be, "Hey, welcome to Mark and Me. Drink Coca-Cola," and it would be horrendous. Like I listen to other podcasts and I can put up with 1 or 2 adverts. I'm like, I appreciate they need to make a bit of money, but
Hmm.
I have always said I'm never going to have adverts for all the out. I'd rather just not make enough money and do what I want, but it sounds like the way I want, and I want to be proud. And I know with
Hell
Boston
yeah.
Manor, you could have signed a huge fucking big deal and played the game, and as they say, like sold out. But isn't it better that you go on stage every night and you play the songs how you want them to be played? You write the album that you want, and you're not kind of being puppets. I think I'd rather fucking die a puppet than be fed a spoon and play a game all my life and not actually be me anymore.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm sure the rest of the guys would say the same thing. If that's what it came down to, we just wouldn't do it. We just do
No,
anything else because the fact that I do get to play my favorite music with my best friends um is the main drawing point. Like you could pay me all the money in the world, but if I'm like getting up there and I'm playing some songs that I absolutely despise and getting maybe even if I'm getting great reactions from the crowd, I'm just like, man, I don't believe in this. I hate this. I've always kind of stuck to that. I don't want to be on stage that badly.
no.
If I'm not doing what I absolutely love, then I don't really care to be up there at all, to be honest with you.
Do you know as well? I'm sure you know this from being on the other side of the barrier at gigs, but it's so transparent when bands are just there going through the motions. I've seen reunion shows where you can see it's a cash grab and a band's skint, and you find out they've got a court case going on or a
Mm,
divorce, and they go on, they go through the motions, they even just about say thank you for coming or hello Manchester, that's it. And you think, fuck me,
mm.
man, like this is not the band I wanted to see tonight. This is not how I remember them. And it's good on you, man, because okay, you might not be in the top class hotels eating caviar, but fuck it, like you're going and playing those gigs and it's authentic, and that's so
Thank you.
important.
It is to us as well. And you know what, man, as well, like we got some fucking really good experiences and stories out of it as well. Like
Yeah,
we've only toured in the tour bus like once in the UK and then a bandwagon, which is barely a tour bus in the States. We did that twice and one time because we absolutely had to because it was Warp Tour and it was like two
yeah,
months of just show after show. You know, we couldn't have made it in a van, but the van touring is awesome. We stay in some really cool, unusual places. We get to pick what we do on our days off, and we've had a lot of like we've got a lot of experience. I feel like we've experienced the world better than someone that is just like either in a hotel room or in a tour bus or in an
yeah.
airport. You know, we've actually like got to meet people and we stayed at a lot of people's houses on floors. Sometimes I was saying earlier today, we did an interview with the BBC Radio Lancashire. I was saying one time we actually got stranded in a small town just outside of Paris and we slept rough for like 5 days, like on the
Fucking
streets,
hell,
which was and it
not the
really that
best.
really puts things into perspective for you, you know, like when you do get those really nice, comfortable things, you really appreciate them a lot more. And it really just like bonded us for life, me and the rest of the guys. You know, they are literally like they're my best friends and like they're closer to me than family at this point. So I wouldn't change it, you know. It's been a great ride.
Do you know what's really good about Boston Manor? And sometimes when a band comes on, I have to do a lot of research because I'm like, oh, I don't know much about this band. But I've kind of followed your journey and I've been at festivals that you've been at, and you're in the same bracket the bands I listen to. So I'm always stuck in my ways. But I love Hell is for Heroes, 100 Reasons, Biffy Clyro,
Yeah,
Rival Schools, all these
nice.
sort of bands. And you've been at a lot of the 2000 Trees festivals and stuff like that where I've seen you guys play. And I feel like it's a slow burn. And I say that with absolute full respect. It's not like you've become Linkin Park and overnight you're this absolute huge phenomenon that everyone's gone insane for.
Hmm.
But every gig I see is getting a bit busier. I'm seeing more festivals that people have got your t-shirts on. I'm seeing more merch sold. I'm seeing you going up the stages at the festivals. Surely that's a really fucking good place to be in. Your monthly listeners are going up on Spotify rapidly. You've hit some really good milestones. And isn't that like a better way to do it because you get the long journey, you get the longevity, but you kind of appreciate it more because you're able to step back and see that you're evolving instead of overnight success, you become arrogant wankers and it's just a disaster.
Absolutely. And you know what as well is we've worked so hard to gain these fans and we don't even know what a Boston Manor fan is really at this point. They're kind of just like it almost feels like they're a reflection of us, like almost like people that don't quite fit in anywhere, you know. And it's really, really nice to see that because we've never felt like we fit in anywhere in the music scene either, you know, which has been a blessing and a curse, you know. We feel like we can tour with quite a variety of bands, but also like some people are just like, well, what is Boston Manor? I don't know how to pigeonhole this band. They used to be pop punk, but not anymore. Are they alternative? Are they pop R&B? I don't know. Like, um, so yeah, building this like this incredible fan base over these years, I feel like they're the kind of fans that really and I see people that have turning up at our shows that have been into our band from like our EPs, like before we
Yeah.
even released an album. So we've worked really hard to cultivate this like amazing group of like um I keep saying fans, but really like I know quite a few of these people like on like first term names and stuff
Yeah.
like that as well. Um and it really is I feel like it's so special. And I love that they keep coming back and I feel like there is a lot of longevity in that as well. And it feels like they've just like grown up with us and it's so insane to me to see when we started out, like see some of those kids back then. I bump into them occasionally now, whether it's a festival or a show or something, and they're like, "Yeah, we're teachers now," or "Yeah, I'm a like a serious, real person in
Yeah, I'm
society
an
now.
adult. I've got a
I'm an
real
adult,"
job. Yeah.
and I'm just like, "Hell yeah!" And you're still like getting your freak on at shows as well. That's amazing, you know? So
What's it like right now, kind of only a couple of weeks away from a brand new album, Sundiver? I must kind of sit there with this. I don't know. I'd rather hear it from you. Do you get these kind of anxious, nervous feelings that people are going to love it, hate it, hopefully be besotted with it? Do you kind of feel like, oh shit, I hope everyone loves it as much as us?
um to be honest, like the way that we worked on this record, um like this is and I definitely think um that we'll write a better album than Sundiver at some point. Um, but it's the hardest thing that we've ever worked on our whole lives, I'd say. Especially with me and Henry doing a lot of the demoing and stuff. Like there were about 30 to 40 iterations of like one song before it even would like make the cut. I was just like it was all that we lived and breathed
Yeah,
for a year, and we actually finished recording it almost a full year before it came out, and it was recorded over over a period of a year and a bit as well. Um, Adding in touring into all of that, I really I hope people like it, but like to be honest, it's the best that I can do. I can say that. There's absolutely no regrets. So if people don't like it, I absolutely just feel like maybe it's the wrong place, wrong time. Maybe people just don't dig what we're doing. But I have absolutely zero regrets with how we wrote the album.
I love it.
I would hate to write an album that I thought was going to do well and didn't really like it so much, and then the people hate it anyway, so that you stuck with nobody liking your album, including yourself. So yeah, I'm
I always
just
feel it's weird, my friend, when I hear that people have sat on an album for like a long duration of time. I always feel like when I do an interview, I just want to hit publish afterwards. I'm like, there you go, the world's ready to listen now. Like I couldn't imagine doing
mm,
an interview and being told, well, you released that in September 2025. I'd be like, what the fuck? Like,
oh yeah,
I just find
it's
so many bands because of pressing vinyl and everything that comes with it at the moment and logistics of then touring. I just
yeah.
find it like you must be so eager just to be like, I just want people to hear it now. It's done. It's mastered. It's ready.
Well, the rollout's been a bit slow on this one as well. Like we were lucky. So actually, I did say we finished recording September last year, but the mixing and mastering process was equally as arduous, and
Yeah,
we spent a long time with our mixer Vince Ratti, who's done he's done some amazing albums. He originally I think was Philly based, but he's now in Texas. But he is an incredible mixing engineer. So we really did back and forth with him for a long time. And I think that was kind of maybe done and dusted in February or March. And then we were just kind of putting out singles like every couple of weeks, which was
yeah,
really nice because by the time I got bored of, and anxious about putting music out, it was like, oh, time for the next single.
that's cool.
So it was nice just to kind of have that slow release, and it made sense with our plans as well. So whenever we were doing a tour or if whenever we were doing something, it was nice to put out some music alongside it as well and just say like, "Hello, we're still here."
We haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
How are you feeling in the way that, and I'm saying this as an outsider, I know you're in the band, I know it's hard to kind of take a step back, but there is a buzz about you guys, dude. I hear it from promoters, I hear it from festival organizers. I'm not saying in the same realm as someone like Sleep Token, because that's just a fucking global, absolute,
The phenomenon.
insane one-off thing. But
Yeah.
I hear about you guys spoken a lot, and I do believe there's this real buzz at the moment, and I don't know if you feel it in the kind of Boston Manor camp, but there seems to be this drive, there seems to be this, I don't know, buzz, this kind of feeling that you're going on to big, big things.
Really? That's
Yeah, I do. I speak
oh,
to
thank you.
journalists, I speak to PRs, I speak to band managers, and I just, especially at 2000 Trees this year, I came away and a lot of the times I was hearing a lot of people were talking about Meryl Streep. I was hearing a lot of people talking about this, and then a lot of people were talking about Boston Manor, and I thought, yeah, it's like everyone's now like, this is the band to watch. I'm like, well, they're 10 years in, but there's a moment for some people, especially within bands. There's a turning point, and maybe I'm predicting the future, and it's not going to happen, but I feel like you're onto something, dude. I feel like there's this really like you're in touching distance of this golden ticket right now.
Oh man, it's actually, man, actually, you made me tear up just a little bit there because it's actually a bit of a relief to hear you say that because it's been, even though we've enjoyed every step of the way on this, like we have felt like we've always been up against the odds.
Yeah,
You know, we've never ever felt like we've been championed by anyone other than like our fans and winning people over just through,
yeah,
almost like sheer brute force of just like, let's just be as authentic and sincere as possible, and the right people will find us. And hearing that there is like an excitement and a growing
yeah.
interest in what we're actually doing here is actually so incredible. So thanks for letting us, because we don't hear
It's
or
hard, isn't it?
see
Because you're on
that.
the inside, so
Yeah,
you don't get that chance to really digest or step back, or people aren't going to come up to you and be like, "Guess what? Boston Manor are going to be a really big band because you're fucking Boston Manor." But
yeah.
I just surely you can see it from the crowd at 2000 Trees or the venues you're now playing or the ticket sales. You must feel there is a bit of a fucking, I don't know, just an uprise in the band at the moment. It must feel good. You can't be like, oh shit, this is just feels like no one's turning up at the shows and it's dying of death and everything we're putting out on Instagram's not even getting a like. You must be feeling this kind of momentum.
I think to be honest, man, we've had our we've had our heads down
Yeah,
and our blinders on because yeah, I have to admit as well, it used to bum us out a little bit when a lot of other bands would get these opportunities sometimes, and we were just like, well, what's wrong with us? And you kind of like look at yourselves and you can be so analytical and critical of what you're doing, and you're just like, I really want to make a good go of this because this might be the only chance we get, and we put everything into this. Why are we not seeing any return? Um, like, making the music that we like is sometimes that's enough for us, but also we do want to be able to like do this as a living, like I said, and be able to support our families who and give back to them because they've supported us along this way as well. Like it's not been easy for them, being away for long stretches of time from our loved ones, and them kind of like letting us stay, like we're not able to afford to pay bills, maybe 1 month or something, things like that, some real hardships. And without them, we'd be probably on the street, homeless, if we didn't have the friends and family that have helped us along the way. But yeah, it's so nice to actually hear that people are interested, man, and I hope it does get bigger. And I feel like we've got a very positive message to put out there as well, like we're trying to do a lot of work for Blackpool as well, our hometown that we really believe that deserves a lot, like much better. The people
yeah.
here deserve much better, and hopefully by being a bigger band, we can put more of a spotlight on Blackpool. And we are gonna. I'm already doing a bit of work in the community as well. I work with kids at this really great music academy called Upbeat, and all of these kids get to kind of go there and forget about whatever troubles or whatever problems that they have in their lives, and just like for an hour and a half or however long it is, just like get lost in the music and just enjoy themselves and be
How
free of
beautiful is
anything
that?
else. It's amazing, man, and I'm blown away by these kids as well because they were a lot younger than I was when I picked up a guitar, and they're already better than I. Some of them are better than I am right now, way more proficient at their instrument, and it gives me a lot of hope for the future because as well, these kids are. It was weird. I started the job and I expected them all to be into all this like new music and stuff, but they all like the old stuff. They all like the Beatles and like a lot of the indie music from the early 2000s, and like they're naming all of these really obscure 80s bands and 70s psychedelic bands, and I'm just like, is there going to be another wave of this,
I know my wife's a teacher, and she teaches at a secondary school, and some of the kids are like, "Oh yeah, we absolutely love Depeche Mode and stuff," and I'm like, "Fuck yeah! Like this is
Yeah.
brilliant! Like the world is getting right again! Like that is what I want to hear."
And when these kids are old enough, I think it might be a little bit their parents doing, because if you think about
Yeah,
it, the parents are probably Gen X,
yeah,
that grew up with all that. And I'm guessing that's how I've figured out how things go in cycles.
yeah. Of
But
course,
when these kids are old enough, there's going to be a lot of new cool bands out there. I guarantee it, just from
it's
seeing what they're
exciting.
doing. So, Yeah.
Dude,
So
my final question for you today, and I ask this to everyone that comes on, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm really intrigued actually after today's interview, kind of where you're going to go with it. But you get to choose the very last song that's played. So after we've done the interview, it's all edited, and the world's ready to listen to me and you talk Boston Manor. You can choose any song by any band. When you're in a band, it's a fucking tough question because you're like, oh man, I've got 1,000 songs in my head. But in the whole history of music, what's the song that came to your heart or your head when I asked the question? And why do you think it's that song that you want played today?
it's gonna be My Favorite Game by the Cardigans.
Oh, fucking hell, no. I've not heard that band for years.
It was a toss up between that and Zombie by the Cranberries, but My Favorite Game is just one of those songs that I heard when I was young,
Yeah,
that got me so excited about music. And I think it's just everything about it. It's extremely like simplistic, yet it's just got so much going on in there, like under the hood. That little guitar riff that I always thought that was a vocal, like I
yeah.
thought that was a vocal for the longest time, until I found out it was just like a
There's
really,
going to be
really
listeners
cool.
right now going, "What? You what? That
Yeah.
is not a vocal."
And I think it's a bit of a song that's a little bit left field from what people might have expected that I would pick, because if it was up to me, I probably would have picked a Deftones song or
Yeah,
something like that. But that song is, and I know the rest of the guys like it as well. The song's quite special to us.
I
It's
saw
just
it
like a
live at V Festival about 20 years ago, and not no disrespect to them at that point, it was like a one-hit wonder, and everyone was just waiting for that one song to be played. And
yeah.
honestly, the whole crowd, it was fucking amazing. Like we talked about memories and going back and where music can take us, but like, what a fucking anthem that is.
And what a voice as well. Nina's
Yeah,
vocal is unparalleled, and I actually like would give anything to have her feature on one of our songs at some point in the future. I would
imagine that.
absolutely love that collaboration. Um,
Well,
and I don't
if
know
you're
if you've
listening, Nina, then get in
oh,
touch. Yeah,
please. And I don't know if you listened to the album that song is on, Gran Turismo, but that
yeah.
whole album front to back is incredible as
It
well.
is,
Like I
but
love
everyone
it.
only focused on the singles, so no one ever gave the album a chance. Which full circle today, we talked about how an album's important. That
Yeah,
album is great, especially
yeah.
it's a good driving album.
With the name Gran Turismo, I
There
wouldn't
you
expect
go,
anything less. I love it.
dude. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I know our paths will cross. I'll come and see some of your shows in the UK. I'll make sure I come and say hello. We will not be strangers.
Please, and please, I don't know what your Instagram is, but I will add your podcast, and I would love to
Of
stay
course,
in touch with you as well.
of
And
course.
please get in touch, and thank you so much. And likewise with the podcast as well. I'm going to completely devour your podcast. I've been looking for something fresh, so
Well, I hope
thank
you
you so
fucking enjoy
much.
it. There's a lot on there, and around the same age groups, you'll even discover stuff like Silverchair being on and stuff like that. So there's fucking loads of stuff. So let me know what you think.
Hell yeah! Thanks a lot, Mark.
You heat me up, and you cool me down like I need you to. You heat me up, yeah, you heat me.
So there it is. There's my interview with me and Mike from the incredible band Boston Manor. And as I said at the start of today's interview, if you haven't listened to this band, please take some time after today's interview to go and check it out because you will not be disappointed. I was absolutely blown away by them at 2000 Trees. I can't wait to go and see them again. They've been in the industry for a long time now. I can't say that I'm like there from the start. I think they've been going over 10 years. But I'm really loving what I'm hearing and I'm so excited because I really do think they're in touching distance of becoming this huge band and kind of getting everything they've worked for. I want to say now a massive thanks to Mike for coming on the show. It was so good to have you on and you're welcome back anytime. Also, if you're listening, go and check the band out whenever they're playing anywhere near you. These are the bands that need all the support you can give them, and if you are literally anywhere near, go and buy a ticket, go and see them, or buy a vinyl or something in the meantime to support this band. Also, if you want to support Mark and me, please share this episode. As you're listening right now, why not open your Facebook page or Twitter, Instagram or TikTok and hit the share button. Tell people about this interview, tell people about the podcast. Word of mouth is a huge thing for the success of Mark and me, and I rely on it each and every week from you guys to keep spreading the word. I do also have a Patreon account. This basically pays to host the podcast on stuff like Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You would never realise just how expensive it is to actually host it because of all the bandwidth and all the episodes available for everyone. But I never want the podcast to be full of adverts, so it's because of this I ask you to support me. And there's a link on markandme.com to go on there and sign up, and it really will go a long way. Just before I go, let's give a big shout out to Richer Sounds, the sponsor of Mark and Me. Again, without those guys, I wouldn't be able to do this podcast. And if you're in the market for a home cinema surround sound system, a TV, a Blu-ray player, a 4K player, whatever you want in TV and video, please go and check out richersounds.com. I'll be back. As you know right now, it's been really crazy, so I can say there will be an episode in less than 48 hours time. A brand new episode with someone that I can't wait to share. So until then, look after yourself, go and listen to Boston Manor, take care, and I'll speak to you all very soon.